Thursday Night Football, Saints Broncos. We're going to start our preview videos today. This is the Action Network. Thursday's going to be here before you know it, ladies and gentlemen. I know it's only Tuesday, but we do need to talk about the game and what we can expect from the Saints versus the Broncos in the Dome on Thursday night. It is going to be a weird game because it's going to be obviously Sean Payton's return to the Superdome. But then after that brief moment of either cheering or booing Peyton, whatever you decide to do, it's going to be a bunch of Spencer Rattler and Bo Nix and Javonte Williams and Bub Means. And neither team is at full strength. Both teams are kind of, right now, they're not in a great spot, but they also aren't who they are. Like they aren't the actual team, so it's very difficult to get a read on what to expect. Before the season, I had this circled as an easy win. I had the Broncos as a pretty bad team. The Broncos, I think, are a pretty bad team, but somehow they've carved out a couple victories to where they don't look like that bad of a team. So, and on the flip side, the Saints are a very injured team who is playing like a very bad team. So it's a real hodgepodge of wackiness in this game. So let's go ahead and get through it. And we'll watch the video, react like only we can do.
Got a barn burner. Denver Broncos visiting the New Orleans Saints. Simon, last college football season, if we had Bo Nix playing Spencer Rattler, it might have been like the eighth game we might be interested in. Instead, we get it in prime time. And this line has moved quite a bit since it opened.
Yeah, so the opener, the Saints were the favorite on the opener. A lot of injury news, obviously, not just Chris Olave, but we can look at the injury report here. I have it pulled up. So obviously, Carr is not playing. Cesar Ruiz, Lucas Patrick, Pete Werner, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave. Taysom Hill was back at practice in a limited role. Kamara's banged up. Look at this. This is just crazy. It's crazy. Tyrann Mathieu, full participant, so he'll be back. Willie Gay, full participant. Cedric Wilson's banged up. Bub Means, full participant. Crazy. But then on Denver, it's a big deal that Pat Surtain is not there. It's a big deal. Is it that big of a deal whenever the Saints wide receivers are Bub Means, Mason Tipton, and Cedric Wilson? It's not that big of a deal, but So this is from Jeff Nowak. 32% of the Saints roster is currently listed on the injury report. 32%. I tweeted this out, or I reposted it. This is from Nicholas. But look at this. This is week 1. This is your starters. This is your starters right here. And you are down to Talise Fuaga, who's a rookie, Foster Moreau, Trevor Penning, who is Trevor Penning, Alvin Kamara, who's banged up, has broken ribs, busted up hip, messed up hand, and your fullback. It's insane, the injuries and whatnot that the Saints have gone through. It really is crazy. So wild situation for both teams. For the Saints, this is your third game in 10 days. You played Monday night Kansas City. You played the Buccaneers game, and then you turn around, short rest, and you're playing this game. Just a brutal stretch for the Saints.
But it had already moved from New Orleans, I think 2.5 to 1 when we knew it was going to be Rattler. Now it's all of a sudden moved to New Orleans +2. That seems like a ridiculous move to me. Bo Nix, as a road favorite, we already felt bad that he was going to be a home favorite of a field goal. Give me your take here.
I do agree that I think it's a bit of an overreaction, but at the same time, when you look at the Saints and you factor in that they are playing a preseason lineup, and really they're not even doing that. They're playing a worse version of the preseason lineup because of so many injuries. On top of that, you factor in the scheduling. This isn't fully rested New Orleans. This is New Orleans on the third game of a 10-game stretch. This is short rest going from Sunday to Thursday. There's so many cards stacked up against the Saints where I do agree on a certain extent. Like, 2.5 is a lot. Like, who the hell are the Denver Broncos to be giving up, 2.5 points on the road? But again, when you're looking around, and if you take a million steps back and you take all your biases out of this, and if you're just looking at it for what it is, you have the 32nd ranked defense in the New Orleans Saints. You have the team giving up the most yards per game. You have 3 offensive linemen out. You have your top 2 wide receivers out. Like, it's just kind of, at that point, it is what it is. Like, at that point, I was talking about today, where like right now in this current situation, is the Saints roster the 32nd roster in the NFL? And it's hard not to say yes. Because, again, on the defensive side, where we're not that injured, we're 32nd. Like, we are ranked dead last in yards per game. So that gets an F. Then you go to the offensive side. Mason Tipton, Cedric Wilson, Bub Means, those 3 players are your receivers. That's the 32nd wide receiver core in the league. Okay? Offensive line. You're missing 3 starters. Your center was not only not in New Orleans, but he wasn't on an NFL team 10 days ago, sitting on the couch. He's your starting center. Right? So then you can say, well, it's probably the 32nd offensive line in the NFL, given the current situation. If everyone's healthy, obviously, I don't think the Saints have the 32nd wide receiver core and the 32nd whatever. We're in a crazy situation. I mean, I don't know what the record is, but I would think the Saints are missing the most offensive starters at one time a team can possibly be missing. I can't imagine a team was missing 10 of their offensive starters or 11 offensive starters. Like, we're pretty close to critical mass.
Bo versus Spencer, Chad. What a game to get you fired up. A good old Bo Spencer bowl game here.
Seriously.
It's gross, but you just nailed it, right? We're supposed to take the Saints here, especially off all this line movement. And I think it could be because Olave is out as well. We'll see who the healthy receivers are going to be for the Saints team. They have a lot of injured guys right now. So that's what the movement's based off of. Because of that, I'm going Broncos. I know it's tough. I can't believe I'm doing it, but I like to take the favorites on Thursday night. I mean, I talk all the time. There's a reason that the favorites historically, this is the spot you want to take them. And this week,
usually it's difficult for dogs or bad coaches or whatever to deal with the Thursday night. That's why it is usually good to take favorites. And that's what he's kind of hinting at there.
I really want to be on the home dogs. Here, it's just tough for me to get there. Like, the injuries, we talked about how they're going to catch up for the Saints team. How do they not catch up to a team that now has their number 1, number 2 receiver out, their best offensive linemen's out, and their starting quarterbacks out? So, on the flip side, Denver, they've kind of, for the most part, escaped this injury bug. And I know they looked bad last week, but I was impressed by Bo Nix coming back in that game. Like, the kid has a never die attitude. Turned that into a ball game last week where most rookie QBs kind of go woe is me and pack it in. And we did not see that last week for Bo Nix. So I bet this when it was Broncos -1. I'd still take it here at -2. Once it crosses 2.5, though, that's when I think the value.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, if it's in that 3 category or 2.5, like, you almost have to take the Saints.
It really shifts to the Saints team. So I think if you want to take the Broncos here, I think there's still value on this number. It's just too much going on with this Saints team to really back them right now. I don't. If I have a clear picture that Olave is playing, maybe I'll change my tune here. But having a rookie quarterback now with a banged up offensive line, with his number 3, number 4 receiver being his number 1s, that to me is just too much for Spencer Rattler to overcome.
Let's take a look at some numbers here. So if we're doing DVOA, total DVOA, the Broncos are 18th. The Saints continually slide to 11th. They're dropping rapidly. Let's see here. Let's not do non-adjusted. Offensive DVOA, again, you got to kind of throw this out because a lot of who the Saints are driving these metrics off of aren't playing. The Broncos are 26th. Okay, defensive DVOA, the Broncos are sweet. So the Broncos are 7th in defensive DVOA. The Saints, again, continue to drop. They are 14th. Okay, so if we look at some of these numbers here, if we go to the charted versus production-based measures of play, offensive grade PFF is your X, and EPA per play is your Y. Bo Nix has been ass. Okay, Bo Nix is not good. He's right down here in the lower bottom left quadrant, not where you want to be. He is with the Jacoby Brissetts and the Gardner Minshew's. He's with Deshaun Watson. He's with Anthony Richardson. He's with Aiden O'Connell. He's with Daniel Jones. Not who you want to be with. Okay, so Nix, he's had some very mixed games. Like some of the games and some of the numbers that come out of from Bo Nix have been just startling. They've been startlingly bad. Now, if we go to unit strength from ESPN and PFF, so ESPN is your Y, PFF is your X. Pass protection, the Saints, we're in the top left now. Pass protection, not good for the Saints. Okay, PFF has them second to last, basically, and then the ESPN has them mixed up with some pretty rough teams too. Pass rush for the Broncos, real good. So PFF has them as the number 1 pass rush. ESPN has them as number 1. PFF has them kind of in the middle. But as far as just pure win rate from ESPN, Broncos real good. Run defense, Broncos are middle of the roadish. They're slightly above average from PFF, slightly above average from ESPN. The Saints are real bad. Run defense, the Saints are down here with the Panthers, down here with the Patriots and the Cowboys, not where you want to be either. Saints run block, for what it's worth, behind me, they're a little bit above average PFF-wise. And then if we look at tiers, so this is your tier. So offensive EPA is the X. Defensive EPA is the Y. Okay. Saints are absolute bang average on this tier. Now again, these are going to be skewed. I cannot explain that enough, because if you're looking at this, you're like, the Saints aren't a bang average team. True. And these are not measuring the current Saints. Like these numbers are 6 weeks of numbers. 2 of these weeks, the Saints were the best team of all time. And then weeks 3, 4, and 5, you just continually get more injured and more injured and more injured. Week 6, obviously, you're like fully injured. So you got to we are in kind of a weird world with the Saints ranking. The Broncos, though, as you can see, defensively, pretty solid. Okay, defensively, they've been pretty good EPA-wise. Remember, the Y-axis. Offense, though, Denver has not been good. Okay, so you can expect a pretty sloppy offensive game from both teams. And that's from, of course, Ben Baldwin right there. So if you look at Bo Nix's game log, Bo, 216, 206, 60 yards against the Jets. God. 216, 246, 138. Completion percentage 57.6, 48, 57, 61 on the year. Yards per pass attempt 6.5, 7.6, 2.4, averaging 5.5, 5 and 5 on the touchdowns and interceptions. Taken 9 sacks so far. QBR 44. He's run around a little bit. So last game he had 6 carries for 61 yards. Before that he had 8 carries, 5, 9, 4, 5. So he has been very mobile. He has been mobile. So I would definitely take a look at that. I would definitely take a look at Bo Nix's his rushing props. We take a look at their last game. So they lost to the Chargers. They did make a bit of a game out of it, though. They scored 16 points in the fourth, so it was 23-0 in the fourth quarter. So some of these stats are kind of skewed as well. Anytime you have a blowout, you don't. It's hard to factor in the stats, because if it's a blowout, the Chargers defense is playing like very passive, and the Broncos offense is playing very proactive. They're just passing, they're just pushing. So the stats don't really tell the story in blowouts, so you can't do much with them. They did have a couple turnovers there. So let's see, they ran the ball 18 times, 6.1 yards per carry is pretty solid. So, but it's going to be a slog. I mean, it's going to be a sloggy game. Obviously, both offenses are kind of struggling. Denver's defense is way better than the Saints right now, even without Patrick Surtain. The Saints, what can Rattler do with Means, Tipton, and Wilson? Can he get anything going through the air? It looked like he was kind of favoring throwing to Bub Means, so I would look at Bub Means props if you're looking at betting him. Obviously, the Broncos are going to be more than happy to establish the run since the Saints can't stop the run, and that'll be the first line of defense for the Saints. Will be stopping that rushing offense for the Broncos.
Yeah, well, the injuries are significant. My favorite thing about Bo Nix this year, I love the relationship that he's building with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And that fight that they got into in the middle of the game, the week before the Chargers, and at the post-game press conference or during the week, I can't remember what it was, someone asks both of them about it. And Sean Payton is giving sort of a thoughtful answer of Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback and he's learning. And Bo Nix gets the question and his answer is, oh, he just said, I love you. And I just said, I love you back. Like, the guy clearly has a great attitude. He is clearly fearless when it comes to this stuff. And as you noted, and he's done this multiple times now.
Bo Nix, he's an interesting case study because I don't think Bo Nix is playing well right now. Like, I do not think he's playing well right now, but he is the kind of rookie quarterback you want where it's like, look, you're going to make mistakes, keep throwing stuff at the wall, and Bo Nix is more than willing to keep throwing stuff at the wall. And that's what's happening. Sean Payton is a good enough offensive coordinator or, offensive mind, good enough QB whisperer where he's going to get the most out of Bo Nix as he can. Sean Payton obviously wants to win this game. Sean Payton is a prickly pear. It's not that him and the Saints, there's no, bad blood or anything. Sean left the Saints, it wasn't the Saints' choice. The Saints didn't fire him or anything like that. So I don't think there's any love loss. I think, but Sean does want to win this game. So Sean is going to take this game very, very seriously, even more serious than he would, normally, because he wants to win all these games. So, interesting. It is a ton of storylines all wrapped up into one game
this season where his team is out of it. And go back to week 1 against the Seahawks. Like, he kept grinding, kept trying to learn, kept trying to make the right passes. And we see it. The Broncos are not pulling any punches. They are not giving him a rookie playbook. That first pass in the game against the Chargers, it was an interception, but they're going down the field. Like, Sean Payton is not pulling any punches here. Very impressive. I don't mind what you're saying. I don't want to bet it. I actually bet the under in this game. That's the first thing I did. I got it at 37.5. I think I will not touch a side in this game.
I think, it's the ultimate irresistible object and immovable force or whatever it is, where, it's the Broncos and Bo Nix, Sean Payton, and then you have Dennis Allen and the Saints with Spencer Rattler. It's like, who's going to take control of this game? Now, I always talk about the Saints are a very zigzag kind of team when it comes to defense. After taking a 50 bomb, after having 50 points dropped on you in the dome, I would think this is the best effort we'll get from the defense the entire season. That does kind of make me want to take the Saints, because then it's like, well, if you're getting the best defensive effort from the Saints at home, and that best defensive effort is against Bo Nix, like, there could be some turnovers forced there. There could be some problems there for Bo Nix. And can the Saints take advantage? Can Rattler? Because the offense they were alive last game. Like, the offense wasn't that bad last game to where I'm sitting here thinking, like, if the Broncos score a touchdown, there's no way we win. Like, there's no way we overcome a 10-point deficit. Like, Rattler proved he can. I know a lot of that was the turnovers last week, but, we were down 17. And Rattler and the offense and just the team in general found a way to come back. So, it's not like one of those things where I think it'll be impossible to score. It'll be very difficult to score, certainly with the cast of characters that we have out there trying to score. But I think it will be, I've seen a lot of people in the comments say, like, the Saints have quit, the roster's quit, the players have quit. I don't know if I necessarily believe that, because I think these veterans, I think they have enough pride in themselves. I don't think DeMario Davis is going to quit. I don't think Cam Jordan's going to quit. I don't think Tyrann Mathieu is going to quit. So it's hard for me to believe like those guys are quitting. Those guys are the kind of guys that would have the best performance of the season in this game defensively. And, they're hearing for the first time this season, they're hearing right now like, hey, the defense is the reason we're losing these games, which is very true. Last year it was a whole bunch of Derek Carr this and, whatever. But now it is solely on the defense. You can't be 32. You can be a lot of things in the NFL, but you can't be dead last. And right now the Saints are dead last in yards per game. So I expect a hell of an effort from the defense. If there is a quarterback that they can get to, if there is a quarterback that'll hold the ball for too long, that the high pressure rate, low sack rate defensive line can get to, I think it is Bo Nix. This is the last stand for the Saints, and this is maybe quite literally the last stand for Dennis Allen, where if he loses this game, he may be fired Friday. I mean, especially if it's an embarrassing fashion, especially if it's 28-0, 35-3 or something Denver. Allen probably does get let go. So I would think the Saints are absolutely all hands on deck. They're absolutely fully focused, absolutely best effort you'll see, especially defensively. Weak Broncos offense, strong Broncos defense. Question is it going to be a defensive battle? It's hard to be like, oh yeah, it'll be defense on defense, but one of those two defenses is currently 32. All right, so it's a tough game. It's a tight game. A lot of storylines. I think I do agree that it'll be low scoring because of the effort I expect from the Saints defense. I think it's somewhere in that 17-20 kind of world. 17-16, a lot of field goals. I see a lot of field goals happening. The red zone's always tough for rookie quarterbacks, and especially when they're opposing good defenses. So I think low scoring is directionally correct. I think very tight game. I'd be very surprised if either team blew the other team out. It's going to be interesting. But we're going to talk about it more this week, starting that process, of course. Let me know in the comments below, ladies and gentlemen, what you think is going to happen in this game. What are the key storylines? What are the key things you're watching? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.